Once you get into a certain um, state of the program, that perception manifests itself in you as a frequency, and that frequency will draw to it like frequencies. It's what I called years ago vibrational magnetism, for want of a term. And thus, every person, every location, every experience um, is a frequency field. It's an information field which you can draw to you or you can push away. And this is how we create our reality. And the force that is behind all this manipulation, well beyond people we see in dark suits, they know that. They know that if they can program someone's perception, that perception will, by its very nature, draw to that person things that relate to that perception. And it works for everybody. And that's, we have to be aware of this. But from my personal point of view, I've never meditated and focused. I mean, people have said to me I've met many people. I totally respect it works for them. But personally, I've never meditated, and I've never. I sit quietly all the time and go into ponder daydream mode. It's a form of meditation. That happens all the time. But I've never meditated and visualized what I want to happen. I've just followed the clues and followed the dots, and synchronicity is manifested. Because a lot of it happens on a subconscious level anyway. The conscious mind is a fraction of what is actually working. I mean, symbolically, the conscious mind is the duck, and the subconscious mind is not just webbed feet. It's like gigantic, enormous, beyond description sized webbed feet. And that's where most of it's going on.
Well, it just goes to show that we are limitless when we come out of the five senses and realize what our true nature is and where we came from and where we go back to as well. And yes, you're right, you can have the life that you want. I completely believe that, and it can be of purpose. And I think it was Edgar Casey that said that when we're one of the most important things on this planet is to be of service.
Yeah, this is the point. But be of service to yourself as well. Never forget yourself, because if you don't look after yourself, you can't look after anything else. And sometimes we forget that. What would it be? About a year ago now, I became very ill. I became burned out. What is called adrenal burnout. I'd just been overworking for so long that the body said, "Hold on a minute, you're having a rest here." And what I did is kind of reevaluate things, and now I look after myself a lot more. And it's important, there is this perception in some areas of spirituality that somehow giving of yourself to the point where you basically forget about yourself and it's all service externalized. That's called spirituality. It isn't. Spirituality for me is a sense of balance, and we have to look after ourselves and be kind to ourselves as well as seek to be kind and be of service to others.
And just one of your important... Absolutely, and one of your important messages as well was, I think, from the beginning of this interview, is follow your intuition. It'll never let you down. It never let you down either.
Well, this is the point, which kind of brings us round to where we started. The program all happens in the head, basically, and intuition comes from the heart. These are just points on the body. It's an illusion in that sense, but they are different perspectives, just as one side of the brain is a different perspective to the other. Basically, the program is all going on overwhelmingly, though certainly not all, in the left side of the brain, or at least in the areas that the left side of the brain is said to process and manifest. The education system, it's almost all left brain. And if you look, even when I was a kid, I'm coming up 64. When I was a kid in the 50s, there was a lot more right brain stuff then, a lot more art and a lot more things that express creativity. But what it's become more and more is just a trudge of remembering facts and left brain information and left brain perspectives. And therefore, intuition starts to be silenced when you get so much in the head, that the head is governing all reaction, perceptions, and responses. And I quote somewhere, I think in Phantom Self, a study at one of the universities in America, where they studied children at school right the way through the school period, from when they first entered to when they left. And what they found was things like that: unique thinking, free thinking, creative thinking, thinking outside the box, all diminished the longer the kids were at school. It's what the program is. And so one of the great ways out of the program is simply to bypass it and get out of the head and into the heart. Okay, what do you think about this? All right, but what do you feel about it? What do you feel about it? So, and there's an interesting, I think I mentioned this in Phantom Self, at the Heart Map Institute in America, where they study the power of the heart energetically in so many other ways. One of the people that runs that was saying that when she was a therapist, she used to have this technique where she'd put a person in a chair and she'd get them to talk to them from the head, and then she'd put them in another chair and get them to talk from the heart. And she said it was like talking to two completely different people. And that is so indicative of the difference between the head perspective, the program, I would suggest, and the heart perspective beyond the program. The heart perspective is what's going to transform the world, and that because the head perspective has got us into where we are.
Very true, very true. Now, thank you for sharing that, by the way. We've been putting your books up all the way along this interview, and links to get the tickets for the world events, for the world tour. Would you prefer that people get the book directly from yourself right now? Because you're shipping all across America separately now, I believe. You've got some sort of deal over there, have you?
Yeah. What happens is that if people come to the website, which is where it all comes from, what we're doing, I think we're going to launch this next week. What's had to happen, because up to this point, Kev, as you well know from what the work you've done, it's been done with a tiny few people, and what's achieved by a tiny few people is just extraordinary, really. And so what we've been doing is, someone in Australia wants a book. We've had to send it out from London. Someone in America wants it sending out from London. Of course, you have the time lapse till they get it. You have the shipping costs, which are considerable. What we're doing now is we've got this agreement where they're going to be shipped out from within those countries. So they'll get them very quickly, and they'll get them for a fraction of the shipping cost as it was before. And it's all just trying to make it easier for people to have access to the information, because even today the mainstream media dominates the information that most people receive, and of course that's controlled by corporations with vast amounts of money, and we're you, me, all of us are trying to challenge that from a very different perspective, and all you can do is your best. But things are improving, there's no doubt about it, although of course the giants of the internet, Google and Facebook and YouTube and stuff, are showing very clear signs, Twitter too more, that censorship is the future, because what we're doing is having too much of an impact in terms of alerting people to the fact that the world can be seen from another perspective.
Absolutely, absolutely, and obviously using Amazon as well to ship your books on. They take care. I don't know how businesses survive nowadays, because Amazon and eBay have become the main dominating platforms. Yet they've got it so worked up that they take all the profits away from you, and you're left with bugger all.
Well,
so clever.
This is
Clever.
This is the point. You see, the whole conspiracy is to centralize power, because diversity is always the garlic and cross to uniformity and control. And central control needs uniformity. Its nightmare is diversity. And so what we're seeing, it's interesting in this country. When I was a kid, basically you went to the local shop. There were no supermarkets, because I'm old, like. There were no supermarkets when I was a kid. I saw the first supermarkets being built. And then the supermarkets came along and they swallowed up the shops. Now we're seeing the Amazons swallowing up the supermarkets. We're now having Amazon in Britain delivering food. And they started off with books, and Amazon's a monster. The idea is that a few corporations control everything, and there is no small business, there is no medium business, there is even no big business in the end, just giant corporations. And it's interesting with this EU referendum that it's medium and small sized businesses and representatives of them who are saying, actually, it would be okay if we came out because the red tape is killing us. And it's the giant corporations and representatives of them that are saying we must stay in the EU. And the reason for the emergence of this monster Amazon and other monsters like Google, and at the same time, medium and small businesses being deluged with red tape and regulation, is because that's all designed to destroy them. Because the idea is that they're not going to be here. That's where it's going. And again, it's about perspective, and it's about the range of information. If small and medium-sized business knew the game and knew the agenda for them, they would respond to events in a very different way to the way that many of them do.